All right. Our next speaker is Justin James with the iRODS Consortium, and he's going to be talking about iRODS S3 resource plugin Glacier support.
Okay, yeah, so my talk is about adding Glacier support to the existing S3 plugin. My experience of this is it was pretty easy. The S3 APIs make it very simple. So the coding itself was not a lot to do this. Okay, first, if you don't know what Glacier is, it's sort of the archive tier for S3. So this is defined by Amazon, but I know Fujifilm also implements this. And we've tested this on both Amazon and Fujifilm. So the way it works is for uploads, it's fairly transparent. You just set a flag of where you want to go. Downloads is asynchronous. So your experience in iRODS will be slightly different. Except for the instant retrieval classes, which at least from my testing seem to work. Amazon defines it as millisecond retrieval. So it from your experience using it, it's pretty much the same as if it were just in base S3. Okay, so how we implemented this. So on reads, we have to do a head object to get the status of the object to see if it's in Glacier or not. The way we do that is we look at the XAMZ storage class header. We inspect that. If it exists, there are three different scenarios. If it exists and it's in either Glacier or Deep Archive, there are three different scenarios to deal with. We have to inspect the XAMZ restore header also. And if it says ongoing request equal true, that means someone has already scheduled the restoration, but it hasn't been completed yet. So what we do in that case is we return an error, replica is being staged error, and with a message saying that restoration is in progress. If the XAMZ restore has ongoing request equal false, then the object has already been restored. So we just proceed as normal. The user can immediately get the file. So we will return, the bytes to the user. If the XAMZ restore does not exist, then the object is in Glacier, so we have to do a restoration. And again, we will return an error, replica is being staged, with a slightly different message saying that we're queuing up restoration for the object. Finally, if the XAMZ storage class header does not exist, we will assume that it's not in Glacier and we will just proceed normally. Okay, so the restore object, which we have to call if we've detected the object is in Glacier, we added two different contexts, the resource context string configurations for that, so that we can call the restore object. One is the S3 restoration tier, and that's either expedited, standard, or bulk, expedited being the fastest. Basically, so that is sent in the chair tag on the restore object command. These times I list here, these are what the Amazon APIs state that the restoration, how long the restoration will happen. I'm not sure if other vendors, if other vendors have different times for this, but the fastest would be if you're in Glacier and you use expedited, then you'll get it within 1 to 5 minutes. The slowest would be if you're in Deep Archive and your restoration class is bulk, then it would take up to 48 hours to restore it. Finally, we also have to send the restoration days on the restore object command, and that's just the number of days that the object will be restored. Okay, on a write or a copy, we need to send what storage class we want the object to go to. The default is just S3, and that's the standard, so it won't go into archive. But you can also set it to either Glacier Deep Archive or Glacier Instant Retrieval. And so again, this is in the context string of the S3. So you'll set, if you want, for the S3 resource. And so you'll set the S3 storage class to one of these 4 values. And these are not case sensitive, meaning in the S3 plugin, we don't care whether it's uppercase or lowercase, but we will send it exactly as the S3 API expects it to be. Okay, yeah, there are a few values that are defined in the Amazon API that we have not implemented yet. And I'm not sure if we will implement them, but we may. One is standard infrequent access, one zone infrequent access, intelligent tiering, and outpost. Okay, so we also had to make changes. We use libs3 to do all of our S3 API calls. libs3 did not support Glacier, so we had to update libs3 to do so. We have our own fork of the libs3 that we make changes to. The biggest thing is we had to implement the restore object API because that didn't exist at all. In addition, we had to be able to set the XAMZ storage class for either put object or copy object. The ability to set that header in the put object or copy object. We added the ability to read the XAMZ storage class and the XAMZ restore headers from the head object, so we would know whether we're in Glacier or not. Anyway, so we've made these changes to libs3. We haven't done it yet, but we will open a pull request to libs3. Hopefully they accept our changes. Unfortunately, it hasn't been maintained in a while, so I'm not sure if they will merge our changes into their code. It's been a couple years since they've touched it. Okay, so a summary of the resource context string options. I already stated these, but I think it's good to have a summary in one slide so you can see what you can set. Now, again, none of these are required to be populated in that context string, but depending on what you want to do, you will want to set these if you want something other than the defaults. So again, the S3 storage class is sent on put and copy object, and it can be either standard, Glacier, deep archive, Glacier, instant retrieval. The S3 restoration tier, that's called when you restore an object, and the default is standard, but you can also do bulk and expedited. And the S3 restoration days is just you can set that to any positive integer for the number of days that you'll be restored. Okay, and so to kind of make how this works in iRODS more concrete, I've given an example of the usage of this. So first we make a resource, an S3 resource. We're doing it a streaming mode, and we've set the storage class to Glacier, the restoration tier to expedited, and the restoration days to 1. So we created the resource on the top here, and then next we had to create a test file and put it to the S3 resource. So we did that. Okay, so now the object is in Glacier, and so we try to get it. So I get test.txt just to try to see what happens. And because we can't immediately get it and it's asynchronous, we have to return an error to iRODS and say the error is replicas being staged, and the message is object is in Glacier and has been queued for restoration. Try again later. So now we've got it queued. We'll try it again immediately just to see what happens. We get the same error message, the error code, same error code, but a different error message, saying the object is in Glacier and currently being restored. Try again later. So if you kept doing it, it would keep giving you that message until it's been restored. Okay, then you wait a few minutes and you can get it. So it's pretty seamless, other than the asynchronous behavior of it. Okay, the status of all of this work, which wasn't a lot. I mean, it was a couple of days of programming, maybe. So this has been partially released. So basically, the part that's been released is detecting the Glacier status and restoring it from Glacier. What has not been released is we don't have support for deep archive, which is really just detecting another string in the restoration, in the head object. But the other part is setting the actual storage class on the put and copy object. And that will be the stuff that has been released was done in 4.2.11 and also 4.3.0. The stuff that has not been released yet will be in 4.3.0.1. Also, the only thing left before release is to write a few CI tests, but it has been tested. At least the new stuff has been tested on Amazon. Okay, what's next? First, we have to release the stuff that I said has not been released. I believe from reading about intelligent tiering that would be fairly easy to integrate into this. So I need to look into that and implement it. Finally, a lot of people want to be able to control this, not at the resource level, which would mean that every object that is written to that resource would have the same storage class. If you wanted on an object by object level, I believe it would be possible to write a rule that reads metadata and overwrites the configuration for that object to set the storage class. But to do that, we would have to use the atomic put so that the metadata gets populated at the time that the put happens. And then, so we would read the metadata, we'd overwrite it, and you could set it on an object basis. And I believe that's it. So, any questions?
All right.
Yep.
Let's.
Hi. So what error code does I get returned when you get the replica is being staged message? Yeah, the actual return code. So when you try and get a file that's being staged or needs to be staged, and you get the replica is being staged error code, what's the return code from I get at that point? I'm putting you on the spot a bit. So I guess my actual the kind of focus of that is a lot of my users detect failure by looking at the error code.
Yeah, I'm guessing it would be an error. The resource plugin just returns the error code, and then the server and the iGet implementation would react to that. So I'm pretty sure you're going to get an error return code from the executable. So it is treated just like any other error. If that's a problem, because it is it's really not an error, it's like an informational thing. If returning an error is a problem, we could look at that and update it. But
I'm thinking of a way for a user to easily detect, you know, it's not there yet, you need to try again, but it isn't an error. It's a,
Yeah.
you know, you need
It-
to try to, you need to detect that particular use case rather than the iRODS server's gone away or the network isn't there.
Yeah,
or
it's
whatever.
just informational, but that is kind of the only way we could tell iRODS that it's not available and make it, you know, handle the asynchronicity of it.
All
I
right.
have another question if no one else does. Oh, sorry. So you mentioned you forked the libs3 library and you've got a merge request. Is that something that's required to be installed on the consumer? Is it kind of like the forked library you need to have this support, or are you waiting for it to be merged upstream for you to deploy the plugin? So
So we've always had a fork. We have a fork of all of our externals. That's one of them. The server and the plugins are built against our forks. So you don't have to do anything else. It's already in there. It's just a question of, from a community perspective, does it help anybody else for this thing to get merged upstream? But that's always been the case. So you don't have to do anything. The libs3 that we need is already a dependency of the plugin. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Justin.